Good afternoon, everybody. I'd like to welcome everybody here at Washington and Lee and everyone at your remote sites. Thanks for attending this FLAVA workshop this afternoon. My name is Jenny Ogden, and I am a Spanish teacher in Bedford County at Jefferson Forest High School. I've been teaching for about 16 years, and I'm going to share with you today some ideas and resources and different programs and apps that I've used in my classes to help you with creating some lessons that will engage your students and get them to using the target language in some hopefully different and creative ways. So some of the things I'm going to show you, or a lot of the things I'm going to show you, are technology oriented. We'll be incorporating a lot of that into the lessons that I'm going to show you. The majority of the programs and apps that you'll see are free. The couple that I've got, the websites that I have listed here, the first one is Dropbox.com. This is a great site for saving your work and saving your students' work so that you can access it from anywhere. You can access it at home. You can access it in the classroom, or if you're a traveling teacher, you could access it in your different schools. With Rubistar, with the forteachers.org, on this site you can create rubrics for your assignments. They have some that are already there for you to see what they look like, but you can adapt them and you can change them to go with your assignment so that they're unique for you, and then you can print them out. It says Bedford can't hear us. Okay.
So you can probably just keep going.
Okay.
Just like typing back.
Okay. All right. So with the Rubistar, like I said, you can create those. You can customize the rubric to go with the assignment that you're giving to your students, and you can print them out so that you can use them over again. Make sure that you check with some of your resources that you have in your area. Let's see, they said they can't hear either.
Can you ask if you would see
Okay. What'd you say?
Let's see if William gets smart.
Okay.
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 I'd say just keep going, especially if you're typing too.
Okay. All right, so we're going to keep going. Some people are saying that they can't hear, but Professor Kuttner is working on that for us. So like I said, with your resources, make sure that you check in with your librarian, or check in your department to see what kind of resources that are available to you. There are a lot of grants that are available. I wrote a grant last year and was able to get 5 iPad minis for my class so we can use them for group work and things like that. And it's really great to have the technology right there at your fingertips so you don't have to go through all the things with checking it out and that kind of thing. You can use them and incorporate it a little more naturally that way. But definitely use the technology people that are at your schools, because they're great resources for you. Okay, as we've gone through the FLAVA workshops, we've been focusing a lot on the TEL framework. We can really use this as a guide for planning our lessons and making sure that they're meaningful for our students. A lot of the lessons and the things that I'm going to show you today really go with this. And students will be using a variety of tools. They'll be having a variety of experiences, and they'll be using high-level thinking and creating projects with these. They're going to be using the language in authentic ways, which is something that we all strive for in our classrooms. They're going to be using things with their classmates, and with a couple of the things I'm going to show you, they'll be talking to students in other localities. Also with these, the teachers will be planning meaningful lessons. We all want our lessons to be meaningful to the students, and we'll be assessing their progress and performance. With these workshops, obviously we are collaborating and sharing ideas with each other, which is a great thing. And we'll be collaborating with some of like the projects, it will be great for us to be able to collaborate with others to set up some of these things. The activities that we're going to look at today, I'm going to have them sorted out with to go with the different learning styles. We're going to focus on the graphic from, this graphic is from the TEL framework, which is on the FLAVA website. Okay, so the activities that we're going to look at today, I'm going to have them sorted out to go with visual learners, auditory learners, and kinesthetic learners. I will also send out a couple of links to kind of go over descriptions of each of these learning styles, which most of us have heard of, but also a couple of learning inventories. I found it kind of interesting to go back and retake a couple of these learning inventories, and you can kind of see how your learning styles kind of translate to your teaching methods, and which can help with, making sure that you're incorporating the different learning styles and not just the ones that are your strengths. I think that with the activities that we're going to look at today, you're going to see where a lot of them will overlap and will be good for more than one type of learner. And I think that it's good for us to use a variety so that they can learn, even if they have one learning style that's their preferred learning style, they can learn to adjust, and because they're not always going to be being taught to their preferred learning style. Like I said, before we get started, just with the things that I'm going to show you today, most of these things are free and are going to be usable on many different levels. Okay, so the first group that we're going to focus on are going to be the visual category, the visual learner. Okay, and we're going to watch a couple of videos first, and then I'll explain a little bit about the program. And then there's one more for that one. Okay. Okay, so the first video we saw was one that I put together, and the second video that we're going to watch is one that one of my group of my students put together. Okay, so that one was from a program called Animoto, and Animoto has a website, and it also has an app, animoto.com, and like I said, I'll give you a list of all the different links and things that we mentioned today. And this one is really easy to use. My 8-year-old daughter is actually doing a project with this for her math class. She can make the videos and things like that on her own. The Animoto has all the backgrounds, and they update their backgrounds so that there is always a variety of things for you to choose from, and they have the music and for you to use also. So what the students do, they can either save or download pictures, or they can take pictures with the device and save those. They can add the captions in and have titles and different things like that. So that's a really fun one. The first time I used it to introduce a chapter to my kids, I kind of had some different vocabulary and just had some pictures to spike their interest with it, and they were just immediately really excited about using it and said, when do we get to make one of those? So I typically let them work in groups, and they will take turns, put in pictures, and everybody will have a little bit of time to put their own picture or type in their own sentences. Even with 3 or 4 kids in the group, everybody wants to have a turn, so it's not so much that you have to worry about that one kid is doing all the work or one student is doing all the work, because everybody wants a chance to have their input on the video. We've also used these for grammar reviews before a test or before exams, and they've put in clip art or put in pictures. They've taken pictures of charts in textbooks or made charts on their own and taken pictures of them and included those in different slides. Also works well if you have a cultural lesson that you're working with. We've done this with art, where they had different pieces of artwork and had sentences or things that would explain those. This one is really great too because you can share the links for the videos. One thing that I've been incorporating this year is Schoology.com. That and Edmodo, they kind of work like Facebook, as far as where you have where you have the site and you create a class. Like in Schoology.com, and you can upload links. You can post notes. You can post assignments there. One of the great things that I like about Schoology is they have a discussion portion of the website. And there is an app also for Schoology. A lot of my students will have downloaded the app to their phone. So if we have a day where we're doing a Schoology assignment, they'll use their phones to participate. But with the discussion aspect of it, you can post a discussion question with the vocabulary that you're talking about. We've had a couple of topics like healthy habits or healthy activities and getting ready to apply for a job. So I'll post 2 or 3 questions in the discussion, and the students will have to respond to each of the questions that I've done, and then they'll have to, as the students are responding, they'll respond to 2 of their classmates. Most of them are really, really excited, and it really helps them with using the target language. With this one, I really want them to work on their communication, so I don't really grade them so much on like their accuracy with grammar, so that they feel a little bit more, willing to communicate and not get so hung up on like, well, am I conjugating this verb exactly right? Should I be using preterite versus imperfect and that kind of thing? But the students really get excited about communicating like this, and it really has. I usually give the stipulation that they can't just say muy bien and as a response to somebody, that they have to ask them another question, or they have to respond with a complete sentence and something like that, so that the conversation keeps going and is good use for them. Okay, the next thing we're going to look at is Prezi, and I just have a couple of screenshots here for this one. I use this a lot for giving them notes versus doing instead of as an alternative to PowerPoint. This is another one where they have the presentational tools that you can have. They have the website, they have Prezi.com, but they also have an app for this. I really like the app. I think it's a lot easier, especially to get started with, than the website. The website kind of leaves you open a little bit with lots of room for creativity, but it can be a little dizzying to navigate when you first start working with it. So with the app, they have the templates already in place, and like I said, the 3 that you see here are some of the templates that they have with the app, but the app communicates with the website. So once you've set up your account with Prezi.com, which is a free thing to do, all of your work is there. So once you've created one, once you've invested the time and put everything together, it's there for you to use. And it really is very vibrant, and there's a lot of motion that goes with the presentation that the kids really are into. So makes note taking a little bit more interesting, and you can import video with these. You can bring in pictures. So one of the examples there is with an art, and so I put some of the clip art or some examples of art there, and then with the cultural thing that we were talking about with Goya. One other thing with the Prezis, you can upload these to Schoology.com that I was talking about a little bit earlier. So if you have students that are absent or sick, if they lose their notes, they can log into their Schoology account and watch your presentation from there. Okay, the next one, this is another app, and I think that this is the only one that I have that actually costs money. This one is about $2.99, so it's not a very expensive app. But I think that this one is really good to do a little bit of pre-writing before using this one. But we found it really useful if we're doing, we have a couple of chapters where we have disaster vocabulary like flood or fire, we have to do like a news report. Or if we've done the food and, like I said, the healthy eating vocabulary. So I get my students to do some pre-writing so they can work out all their errors and get their grammar correct and agreement and that kind of thing, and go through some editing. Then when we get to the app, you can see here where we can add text. There's like even a subject line here, so they can put the date. They can put themselves as a reporter. They can add pictures that they find and can edit it that way. You can print them out so that you can have like your class newspaper. With the next one, we used this 1 year in my class. They have kind of like some different backgrounds where you can do recipe cards. And so 1 year when we were working with commands and food, I had the kids come up with their favorite recipe, and they had to list their favorite their recipe and go through the steps so they can use it as a visual for their presentation. But it's also, you can, like I said, you can print it out. They can have a class recipe book. We did some articles on healthy choices and healthy living, so you can have your class healthy living magazine and things like that. So kind of, instead of doing a worksheet, you can have them applying and using their vocabulary and something that they've made. And with this one, like I said, you can do clip art. These are some pictures that we just added to spice things up. Okay, next. No, they can't record their voices on live cards. I'm going to show you one in just a little bit where a couple of different ones where they can record voices, but the live cards is just a visual. Like I said, before I've had them print out the live cards and use those as a visual for doing a presentation, but so they were speaking in front of the class, but not recording their voices. And live cards is an app. There's no website to go with that one. Okay, the next one that we're going to look at, this is also an app. This is one of my students' favorites to use. This is called Pic Collage. Both of the examples that you see here are student done. And so when we start our vocabulary unit, we usually use this as a chapter starter. And they have their new vocabulary list, and so they have to find pictures that represent the vocabulary. So you have two examples here. The first one is the one on the left is exercise and being healthy, and the one on the right is going camping and an adventure that they had to have when they went camping. They would get lost or get caught in the bad weather. That was our topic for that one. My students have gotten really, really creative with some of these. You can change the backgrounds. I don't know if you can really tell here, but this one has like wavy lines. This one has like a kind of red speckled wallpaper. They can do, they have mustaches, and they have, the students can crop the pictures. They can add stickers. They have stickers like hearts and mustaches and funny things that they can add there, but they can also, layer the pictures there, so you can see how they've kind of cropped the compass and the binoculars here, and so they've kind of created their collage that way. Once again, I'll usually give them to these in groups, and so everybody's participating, everybody's adding some pictures, and I'll have them put the Spanish word there. And then we'll display them on the LCD projector. They'll use those as a point for either writing or speaking. Sometimes we'll just write some sentences. I'll tell them to pick a couple and write some sentences to go with it. Or they'll have to, sometimes we try to create a story around the pictures that are there. And other times we'll just use it as a visual for speaking, so that they can, they'll talk about what they see there and create some sentences just based on that. Like I said, there's not a whole lot of cropping that they've done some, but some of them will take pictures of themselves and, crop the face out and put it on somebody else. And, so the students have a lot of fun with these. I have a couple of students that have downloaded the app themselves so that they can do them in their spare time. So we're going to take a short break in your groups at your sites now. I want you to kind of think about some of the visual learners that you have in your classes. How do you think maybe you could use some of the apps or programs that you've seen here? What other activities do you maybe use to help your visual learners in your class? So we're going to turn the mic off here for just a minute and let you guys share at your sites, and please type in some things if you have some other ideas to share. Okay, so it looks like you all have come up with some really good things here. A couple of you have mentioned some things that I'm going to talk about in a little bit as far as like with Quizlet. Um, I think that a lot of these things would be great with ESL students with the pictures and helping students to use their target language. That's great. Photo Story is a good resource too. And I'm going to show you a couple of other kind of storytelling apps and that kind of thing in just a little bit. Playing games using Animoto, that sounds like a great idea. Okay, Bedford County geography maps with unknown vocab or regional products, artwork. We talked about here using Prezis to do art presentations and country presentations. All right, University of Richmond, you mentioned VoiceThread. I haven't heard of that one. I'd be interested to hear some more about using that. All right, sounds great. Okay, so the next that we're going to look at are some activities for auditory learners. Okay, the first one that we're going to look at here is Skype. This one really ranks on the TEL framework for collaboration. It's really key for you a lot of times to collaborate with another school or another teacher to get this to work and to be an authentic learning experience. I had an opportunity at my school to work with a professor at Lynchburg College and then another teacher in the county at a different school. And we were able to set up a time where we could communicate with, have our students communicate with each other. As a kind of a pre-activity with this, I had my students write or come up with about 20 questions that they would ask someone if they were meeting them for the first time. And then so that it was more, give them something to start with and not just have nothing to go on. So for example, one of my students had the question here, they would ask like, well, what's your favorite sport? So that was one of their questions that they wrote in the target language. And when the person responded to them with basketball, they were able to build their conversation with that. And because she was happened to be a basketball player, so she was able to incorporate that into her conversation and use that and come up with a more authentic conversation and build on that. This is one of the things with technology. Sometimes have to be ready for things to not work out so well. This was one, and we did have to have a few bugs with this one, but even before we got everything worked out, so we were communicating with Lynchburg College on this one. We had students, some students stay in my room and others go down the hall and kind of have a phone call or a phone conversation with each other. And so they were interviewing each other, but they were in different locations. So they still really enjoyed the activity. It was a lot better, they did a lot more speaking than if they were just sitting across from each other in the classroom and discussing the same type of thing. So I think when I first started teaching a long time ago, we would do phone conversations. I had some old telephones and they would practice calling each other and have dialogues that way. But this is kind of, making things a little bit more detailed and using a little more authentic where you're able to talk with, some other places. So be really great with collaborating here if we could work some things out too. If you have schools, if you have students that are interested in Skyping or communicating with other students, it would be great for you to email and we can maybe try to work that out to have a communication time or have like a Skype time. Okay, the next thing that I'm going to show you, this one's called, this is an app called Sonic Picks. What we did with this activity, we want to wait just a minute?
It won't.
Oh, okay. With this one, we were reading a cultural thing in our textbook about telenovelas. Spanish soap operas. And the students, they read a little bit about the telenovela, and then we used one of the activities in the book as kind of some guidelines for them to create their own story with a conflict. So they read a little bit about the real telenovelas, and then they looked at the other questions, created some characters and the conflict. Then they had to draw things out. They made a comic strip that illustrated their conflict and their resolution with that. We used the iPads again on this one, and they took pictures of their artwork and cropped things, and so they were using the tools and learning how to use the iPads with this. One thing that we talked about here is that with using some of these tools, we're helping the kids not only with their foreign language, their Spanish or French, or whatever language you teach, but we're also giving them some other tools that they can use in other classes. They can use some of these presentational tools, and they can use these in their high school classes, or they can use them when they go to college. They've got some background. They have some resources that they already know about. I teach level 3, but I think that you could do this with any level, with whatever they could create a comic strip on introducing themselves or talking about likes and dislikes. With Spanish 2, I know we use the Realidades series in Bedford County. We have car travel, or giving directions and things like that, or getting injured. So I think that once you see the video, I have a student example here, so you'll hear her speaking and see some of her see what her story was. I'll just to give you a little bit of setup. Her conflict was between Susan and Maria, and Susan had borrowed her Maria's dress, and then some conflicts ensue. Okay.
Por lo general, ella se divertían completar sus ropas. La semana pasada, María y Susan se pelearon porque Susan no regresó la camiseta de María. María pide que devuelva. Luego, Susan le dio la camiseta a María, pero estaba regresado. Estuvieron descontento por María enojado. La camiseta es ruinada. Eso que es su favorita. Susan dice no, yo no fui, pero María no lo creo. Pero se llevan bien. Susan necesita comprar nueva camiseta, pero Susan no quiere comprar. Días luego, Susan y María resuelven cuando Susan se disculpa y hace María un postre.
Oh, that's so cute. So my students had a lot of fun with these. They had varying conflicts, from this one where clothes got ruined, to maybe they were fighting over what movie to go see. One wanted to go see something that was sad. One wanted to see something that was funny. One student had students arguing over what was better, to eat healthy food or to eat junk food, and so they had a lot of fun with this. Once again, I had each of the students do this individually. A lot of times when we work with technology, we will do things in groups. But we kind of, they had about 3 different assignments that they were working on, and so they would work on their comic strip, and they would work on their editing, and practicing their grammar with these, and then they kind of rotated as far as when they were going to record and that kind of thing. They didn't have to scan the pictures. They just used the iPad to take the picture. They took pictures of the artwork that they created for this one, and then they were able to in the photo part of the iPad, they were able to crop the pictures and focus in on each of the frames that they did. They each had I think 6 frames that they had for their comic strip, and so these are all they did personal artwork for for all of these. But you can use clip art and things like that. You don't have to do pictures like that. We've used this with culture also. In one of our chapters, we have different legends, like the legend of the rabbit in the moon, or like tying the knot. And so a lot of times they've picked picked a Spanish country and found a legend from that particular country, and that way they've downloaded where they put pictures in for that particular assignment. They didn't do any drawing. You can add text to the bottom, so you can have them type things. I wanted them to focus more on the speaking for this one, since they had already written things out on their comic strip, so I could see their writing that way. And then, but they just did the speaking for the final project for that one. If you have questions, please feel free to type anything if you have any questions about what we're going over, or if you have anything that you want to share with ideas, if you've used any of these, and that would be great. Okay, so the next one that we're going to use, that I'm going to show you, is EduCreations. With this one, I'll show you the video first, because the video kind of explains a little bit. Rubrics or grading suggestions. Let's see, with rubrics, with this one, they had a couple, with the Sonic Picks project, they had a couple of things. I had them to do their pre-writing, so they got points for having their pre-writing, for editing, for being creative with their artwork, whether or not they took the time to add color, or if they just scribbled. Obviously, I told them they don't need to be Picasso when they do their project, but, if I want them to take their time, even if they're doing stick people, they can, they can add some things that will show that they took their time on their project and put effort into it. So I graded them on that, and then, like I said, with the grammar, with the pronunciation, because I did encourage them to practice a little bit practice a couple of times through before they did their final recording. One of the good things about Sonic Picks too is that you can pause in between. I know the example that I showed you there, she seemed to be talking really fast, but you can pause in between the frames. So with those, if they make a mistake, they can go back out. It saves all their pictures after once they've put them onto the iPad, so it creates their project that way. So if they mess up and want to restart their recording, then they can do that. So those are some of the things that I did for as far as grading on that one. With EduCreations, like I said, this one, I hope that answers your question. If you need anything else, just let me know. With EduCreations, I'm going to play the video for this one first, because it kind of explains. I've taken some screenshots, and it goes through and explains some of the things here, and then I'll talk to you a little bit more about that one. EduCreations is a free app that can be used on the iPad. It's great for creating and recording presentations and digital stories. You can do a book report or tell your own story. Students can add pictures from the images saved on the device, from the Dropbox, or from the web. You can add text or draw in different colors. My students drew pictures for their camping adventure stories and added them to their EduCreation slides. Others used pictures from the internet, then recorded themselves reading their story in Spanish. EduCreations is awesome in any language. So did they see it or no? Okay.
Will you click on share? Does everybody
Okay.
get it?
All right. So with EduCreations, they do have the site that you can go to for that. It's educreations.com. But they do have the app that you can do for the iPad also. And once you set up, you set up an account with EduCreations. So with EduCreations, once they've made their project, it saves to that site. So you can go to the site educreations.com and view the projects after the students have completed them, which makes it great for viewing. You can project them on the LCD projector to show the kids the final projects and the final things. Also makes it easy to grade because you can just go to the site and look at a few at a time and come back to it easily. I really think that this is a great tool for lots of different subjects. If you have an exploratory, if you do like a world cultures class, this would be something that the students there could do. A lot of times I know I used to do exploratory, we would do different countries, so you could have kids work in groups and each one could do their own country and they could show the videos in their class there, and that way the students are the ones that are personalizing the information. They're taking the reins and teaching the class about the country that they're learning about. You can do this with your French, or you can do it in Spanish with the different countries there. I also think that it would be great with as a kind of like a book report. If you're reading or doing literature things, you could do your summary in this way. One thing about EduCreations is if once you start recording, that you do have to keep recording. You can pause, but if you mess up, then you just have to overlook it. You have to go on. You can't rewind or start over with that. So that's the one flaw with this one, but all in all, I think this one's really great. Like I said, the kids can draw on it. I've had kids do grammar things with this also. And with being able to draw, the kids can put emphasis on, endings to drop or things to change with grammar. They can draw in their pictures. They can add clip art, and like I said, do great with recording their voices. This is great for review during like exam time. They can break down the topics that you've gone over throughout the year to help the whole class review. Okay, a couple of other auditory things, Audacity and podcasts. Audacity is a great thing to use. That's that you can download on the computer. That's not an app, but you can do that for recording, helping kids practice with their recording their voices and practicing their speaking and things like that. Some podcasts. I found a couple of podcasts recently, and really are great to help with having the kids hear people with authentic accents and from different Spanish-speaking countries. A couple of different things. I know not everybody's a Spanish teacher, but I do have one other one. It's www.radiolingua.com. That one was the coffee break Spanish, but it also had French and it had Swedish and lots of different, had German, lots of different languages that you could use on that particular site. It was, I'll just type right here, is that good? Okay. Oh, thanks. With this one, it was it is produced from the UK, so you have people that are don't have authentic accents on the radiolingua.com, but they really would break down the phrases. They would give the students a phrase. They would have the student repeat in the target language, and then they would build a conversation based on the phrases that they were teaching. So the one that I listened to for here, they were doing greetings and good manners and asking how someone was doing. So they would break the conversation down into pieces, and then by then they had the whole conversation. Another one, I'll type this one up here too. Oops,
So
thanks. Okay, this next one was SpanishPod101.com, and I picked a more intermediate level for this one to listen to. And before you listen, they have a little synopsis in English telling you what the conversation is going to be about. The one that I listened to had 3 people talking. They were in a Chilean restaurant, and they were discussing just their days and talking about the Chilean wine and talking about some of the okay, so Vocaroo is recommended, but recordings will disappear. One thing about education is the recordings don't disappear. I have with the French version of Spanish Pod 101, I'm not sure. Spanish was the one that I saw, but I haven't. I know that Radio Lingua has other languages, but I'm not sure about the other ones if they're available in other languages.
Radio France International is a good one
Okay.
for French.
Did you hear that, Brown Middle? Okay, great. Okay, like I said, but with the Spanish Pod 101, I think it'd be great. I don't teach at the AP level, but I think it would be great just to let the kids in any level hear people conversing at a natural pace and have different accents and that kind of thing, instead of just hearing what we have on the CDs with our textbook, or hearing the teacher read or that kind of thing. In my case, since I'm not a native speaker. But it was really great with that one. They really taught with the Spanish Pod 101, they taught the grammar and the vocabulary through the conversation. They incorporated culture into it as well. They went through the whole conversation in the target language, and then broke it down from there. They would go back and repeat the Spanish, and then do the English, and then they would teach the lesson from there, talking about agreement of adjectives and nouns and verb conjugations, and they were talking about using the conditional tense in this one, and so it was a really great thing. With YouTube and TeacherTube, these two are 2 resources I've kind of started incorporating a lot more. Once again, just like with the with our last assignment where we read about telenovelas in the textbook, with YouTube, or in our textbook, we read about the popular Spanish show Sabido Gigante, and we talked about how the person there is how he's just such a very excitable character, and he makes the show what it is, and so in order to kind of illustrate that a little bit with my kids, we looked up an episode of Sabido Gigante to watch in class, and I think the students, it really gave them a lot of confidence to hear him talking and to be able to pick out a lot of the things that he was saying. They were, in that particular episode that we watched, they were doing a beauty pageant for 7- and 8-year-olds, and so they were talking to them about their different likes and dislikes, and one of the little girls had lost some teeth, and she'd been eating a hamburger, so they were able to pick out. I'm like, okay, well, I want you to listen for this. How did this little girl lose her teeth? And so we were able to take and kind of, ask them some questions and get them to listen for particular things, which they really liked a lot. They have often requests to watch some more, but with all of our snow days we've missed, we haven't had a whole lot of time to watch any more Sabido Gigante, but but it was a great thing to be able to bring the real thing in and use that resource so that they could really see it instead of just reading the little blurb, and like I said, it gave them authentic listening and getting to hear it in context, which was like I said, gave them a lot of confidence to be able to say, oh, hey, I heard this guy and I really could pick out a lot of what he was saying. Okay, so we're going to take another minute for you to work in your groups here or work in your sites. Thinking about auditory learners. I know some of you have already shared some great things for listening activities and things that you do, but if you could think of, you have any more in your locations that you'd like to share, any questions that you have on some of the things that we've gone over, if you want to post those, then that would be great. And we're going to, like I said, turn the mic off and talk a little bit here, but I'll look forward to your questions. Okay, thanks for sharing all of your ideas here. I see Brain Pop. We were just talking about that here.
That's okay.
We have my daughter likes the English version of Brain Pop. There is a Spanish version of Brain Pop. I'm not sure if there are other languages, but I do have the Spanish one. On Brain Pop, they can watch video clips and different things like that, and hear different songs, which is, once again letting them hear some more of the language. Changing their cell phone settings to Spanish. We were also talking about here, if you're working with the different keyboards and things like that to help with facilitating, like using upside down question marks or using accent marks and that kind of thing. Let's see what else we have. Let's see, Kit Hill, you have mentioned House Hunters International. Do they have things written in the target language with those, or can you hear dialogue there? Not hear as much as authentic home and target language. Okay, great. Okay, so playing video clips with famous people speaking, that's really great, helping keeping the kids interested in what's going on. We were talking here about how the podcast really helps them focus on the speaking and on listening, and not so much as being distracted with like the visual that they would be for YouTube. So that was we also talked about one of the teachers here has assigns the students to listen to podcasts, and does it as kind of as a homework grade for the 9 weeks. Is that right? Homework. And then so they can pick a podcast about whatever they're interested in. It could be baseball, it can be a particular one from a particular country, or with soccer. So the kids are listening to things that they're interested in, but they're also listening and hearing the target language. Let's see, where are you finding podcasts in Spanish? Did you have any other? I just like
list, but I just
Right.
usually Google it.
Like someone mentioned earlier, on here there are a lot on iTunes, and then usually if I think when I was looking for some, I just searched for podcasts in Spanish, and lots of different things came up. So you can investigate that. I've given you the two that I've really listened to the most. I haven't had a whole lot of experience with the podcast, but if you can check them out, and and listen to them, and kind of develop a list and for your kids to use. It gives them some authentic listening there. Playing popular songs. One thing also that that's kind of good for that, if you're going to incorporate kind of a visual activity with that, you can do a close activity where you take some of the words out and have them listen for some different things. But my kids like to listen to a lot of the Spanish music also, incorporate that in. All right, thanks for sharing all of your auditory things with us. All right, so the last group that we're going to look at is kinesthetic. So the hands-on learners here. Thanks. All right, so a couple of fun activities that my kids really like to do when we're doing vocabulary again. They like to play bingo. I'll usually give them, I have like a set of a worksheet that I'll use with them, and so they've got the card already made, and then we call it Bravo to put a little foreign language flair on it. And then they have to write their vocabulary words in, and we'll usually break it down for what they have to know for for a particular quiz and that kind of thing. And so we're narrowing down what words they're going to use. The other picture that you see here is of a SWOT board. I'll typically use PowerPoint and take their vocab list and just use text boxes to fill up the screen of the PowerPoint with their vocabulary words and project it with the LCD projector. Then you divide your class into 2 teams. Each team has a floss water. The picture here, the kids have the same. I usually give 2 different colors, so we'll have like the pink team and the green team. And call the words out, and the person who finds the Spanish word or French word first would just they swap the word. So some of these, like I said, I teach high school, so some of these swap battles can get pretty exciting if we've got a tie score and and that kind of thing. But it gets them out of their seat, it gets them moving a little bit, and they have a lot of fun playing with these. They're hearing the words, they're seeing the words, they're up and moving, interacting. So these kids that like to be hands-on and moving around, this really helps them with that and helps them learn a little vocabulary along the way. All right, foldables are another thing that that I like to use to help with learning different grammar concepts. I just showed you a clip art picture here, but I'll hold up one that that my kids have done. I'll usually give them some type of colored paper and have them fold it in half. I'll usually give the directions in the target language, like toma el papel, take your paper, dobla el papel, fold your paper. A lot of them will refer to this as the hot dog fold, or as we say in my class, el perrito caliente. And then we'll use our scissors and cut the different strips here. This one was for irregular subjunctives, so I'll have them write on the back what the topic for the grammar is, whether it's irregular subjunctives or if it's irregular preterites, or in level 1, I used to do this with question words since they always have a hard time remembering what all the question words mean. I'll have them write that on the outside. In this case, I've got like the verb here. If it was question words, I would have them write the Spanish question word on the outside. Then when they open the flap, they've got the meaning. For question words, I had them have an example sentence. With the verb ones, I'll usually get them to conjugate the verbs in there so they're practicing with the conjugations. Once again, I feel like this is a really good tool. I've had kids that I've done a foldable for a particular grammar concept, and then when we've moved on to something else, they've made them on their own. We didn't take the class time to do it. They were like, oh, well, this really helped me study for this, so I'm going to use this tool again. So this was one that, like I said, I use pretty frequently here, where we just cut the strips and do question words or irregular verbs and that kind of thing. I have another teacher in my school. She does a pocket foldable. I don't have an example of that one here with me, but they take the paper and fold it in half, and then fold a piece of the paper back to kind of make a little pocket out of their paper. And then they have some example sentences. They've done possessive adjectives or Sarah versus a star, and so they have some example sentences, and they have to just write on the back real lightly what the answer is, but they can quiz themselves and with that particular concept, especially with Sarah and a star, where they have a hard time remembering when to use those also. I'll use these for vocab sorts. So if we can divide, when I'm doing stem changing verbs, sometimes we'll just divide the paper into 3 pieces and have E to IE, O to UE, or O to U, and that kind of thing, just to help them sort and practice with that kind of thing and classifying the verbs so that they can practice with those. Like I said, a lot of times I will use different color paper and have them label that particular thing so they know what they're using. One other thing that I was talking about earlier with our, with one of the papers that we did comic strips. I'll get my kids to take a piece of white paper and I'll get them to fold it in half like this, and then do a couple of shorter folds so that this is how I get them to create their little comic strip paper. They just fold their paper up like that, and whatever vocabulary we're using, they can either, sometimes I'll just have them do random sentences and they don't have to be connected anyway, and they draw a little picture to illustrate it, so they're putting their own artwork and making their own creation with it. But then other times, like I said, with the telenovela, they had to have a theme. They had to create some kind of conflict between their characters. At the beginning of the year, our vocabulary was camping, so they had to create, we read part of a story and they had to complete the story. There was kids who were going on a camping and hiking trip, and then they were getting attacked by a bear, so they had to finish the story to tell what happened to the campers there. One other thing that we've done with art, I like to get them to kind of do some of their own artwork, which I think is sometimes, I've done this a couple of times. When I was student teaching, we did a lesson on Frida Kahlo, and they each had to do their own, had to do a self-portrait and present in as if they were her and describe how they were feeling when they painted it and incorporate things that we had learned about her when they were giving their presentation with, they did their own version of some of her paintings. We did, at the beginning of the year in my class, we were talking about Miro. And so I had my students they each had a piece of paper, and they had to draw just a random line. I would tell them to draw, they had to close their eyes, and then I would tell them to stop. So we had all kinds of different shapes of lines and things, and they had to take their line, and this you can kind of see in this one with like the roof here, it's a little bit darker where she colored it in. They had to take their original line and they had to create something from the line, whatever, if it was a squiggly line, if it was a straight line. And then on the back, they had to use the vocabulary that we were talking about, which was foreground, background, and simple or abstract. And so they could make, they can make it be realistic, or they can make it be something more abstract. And so they would talk about it, and they would do some comparison with some of the things that we had read and seen in our book with that particular artist. So those are some of the things that I do with those. One new thing that we've done recently in our county is thinking maps, and we had a whole training on this at the beginning of our school year. But one that we've incorporated a lot in our department is this one's called the double bubble. My Spanish classes like to call it the double buble, just to have a little fun with it. And we could use this in a variety of ways. The two middle circles here, like the two bigger ones like this, we'll put two different concepts. Like we've done preterite versus imperfect, we've done Sarah and a star, we've done por and para. I've had some teachers that have done some readings and want to have the students start with those. They'll have them compare the readings here. With this particular app, like I said, you put your two topics that you want to compare and contrast in these. Then in the middle, they write some things that they have that are similar, some different ideas that connect these two. And then on the outside, they talk about things of how these things are different. So this is really great to use to kind of as a, like I said, to compare the different things and to kind of have them really analyze and think about a grammar concept. But we also can use it as a springboard for like a writing assignment or a speaking assignment, or helping teach another classmate about that particular grammar concept and things like that. We've done this with culture also, picking a couple of different cultural concepts and comparing between countries and that kind of thing. So like I said, we really use it for as that analytical part of like the grammar review, but you can use it for jumping or a springboard for discussion and speaking as well as writing. Okay, one other thing that we've done, I've done this for a while, but we did this year, and the kids my hands-on kids were really excited about this. I had them take two pieces of paper, and we were discussing por and para. So they had one piece that said por, one piece that said para. Then I had several questions several fill-in-the-blank sentences that I was projecting on the LCD projector, and so I would call on someone to read the sentence, and then, okay, I would ask them, okay, well, which one is this? What should we use, por or para? And so everybody was holding their papers up, and they would make a decision for what they wanted to do. It was that way I could see right away, does this kid have it? Does this student have it? Did they understand what we're doing? Then we would talk about, well, why were we using this one versus this one? In one of my classes that is really, really hands-on, they have a lot of energy. We were working with this, and I had one of my students, he come in and he said, well, this is really great. He said, do you feel the energy that we're doing here? We're really getting this. And so it was really, I really noticed that they really, on the test, they were really, had understood it and were really getting, really did well on that part after we did that activity. So I think with the hands-on kids, it was really helpful to use that activity. You can do it with Sarah and a Star if you want to compare just basic usage, and preterite and imperfect too. But it was good for those kids that, don't want to just sit there and fill in another worksheet, to kind of be active and to move around and to do something like that. Also with I also encourage my kids to do flashcards if they're hands-on learners. Somebody mentioned earlier the Quizlet.com. With these, if they don't want to make paper flashcards, they can do the virtual flashcards. And there are lots of games and things on there that they can do. You can set up a teacher account. I mentioned Schoology before. You can upload links to that page and use that. They can use the Quizlet, Quizlet.com. Use the cards that you've put up. You can make your own flashcards, or you can encourage them to do theirs. I have one student who does it for every chapter. He likes to make his own cards. Okay, so let's take one more break with this section with the kinesthetic learners. How you think you may could use some of the things that that you've seen. If you have questions about anything that you've seen, or if you have activities that you do with your students that really will help out the kinesthetic learners. Okay, well, you guys have a lot of great activities listed here. Let's just review just a couple of them. University of Richmond, you have your pin the tail on the donkey activity. That sounds really great. We were talking here how we've used similar things. I remember with the Spanish one, practicing with direction words and giving the kids like a map that you would play Matchbox or Hot Wheels cars on, and have them telling them how to get to one place or the other using direction words. And then Bedford County, thanks for the reminder on that activity. With the one thing that we've used in Bedford County, and a couple of my colleagues and I do, with taking a piece of paper and having the different verb stems and endings if you're working with irregulars or stem changers and things like that. Having the stems be on part of the paper and having the endings, and then having a subject, and having the students use that as a hands-on activity and match up the subjects the way they want to and choose the verbs, and then have to create their own ending for the sentence. So that's a great idea too. All right, and then you've mentioned earworms.com. That sounds really great. And Simon says, yes, that's a great one to get the kids up and moving and out of their seats for a little while and practice with directions and commands and body parts if you're using that vocabulary. Thanks, Bedford County.
Oh.
Thanks. Okay, so just to kind of wrap things up a little bit, I've got a couple more slides here with we've already talked a little bit about Schoology.com or Edmodo. Like I said, I think this is a great way if you've got just to get the kids a little bit more with communicating with each other. And my kids really like the discussion aspect of this, and like being able to comment on each other's things, and it really kind of lets them kind of gets them to not be so worried about speaking and messing up with like pronunciation and that kind of thing, but they're still practicing their vocabulary and things like that. And both of these sites, the Schoology.com and Edmodo, they're both free. And it really, teachers that I've known that have used Edmodo or Schoology have noticed like that there's kids, will like log on and will participate in like a conversation, or so they're using their language outside of class, which is always a great thing. Quizlet.com, some of you like I mentioned that, and like I said, it really works well with Schoology if you want to post things on there and share that with that site, or you can use it. I haven't used it with the Smartboard yet, but I've thought about using Quizlet to bring your the set of vocabulary cards, and how that way it's another kinesthetic thing where the kids can get up and use their cards there. ProProfs.com is a website that I've used before also. It lets you use some different things, create different things, like one of them has a puzzle, and they answer questions and then they get to work out a puzzle. You can use pictures of places that are in your the country of the language that you're teaching. And once again, that works really well with the Smartboard. The kids can drag the pieces of the puzzle. You can have them answer questions, vocabulary questions or grammar questions or cultural questions to have their turn. It also lets you do crossword puzzles and word searches and different things like that. There are lots of different things on that site that you can use and print out that were all free. So that's all the things I have. It's a little more than 10, but a few bonus things. If you guys have any questions, I'll be glad to take questions. Make sure that you use, we talked a little bit about, thank you for all the happy birthday wishes. With your instructional technologists like at school, or your librarians, they really, I know in our county that we have, or in our school that we have a lot of help and a lot of good resources. So hopefully you have the same at your school. I'll be glad to share. I'm going to share the pages and the things. I'll get the thing to Professor Kuttner here, and I'll also include my email. So if you have questions on things that we've talked about or things that I've shown you here, I'll be glad to answer any questions. If you try something and it works out great, or if you're worried about things, then like I said, I'll be glad to hear from you. I guess that's all.
Yay.